My name is Toby, and I'll be doing a demo of Pawrly. Pawrly is a SQL interface for APIs. Essentially, it lets you write actual SQL queries against APIs, files, MCP servers, databases, of course, right? Pawrly basically enables your agent to skip calling MCP2s or API calls directly manually, right? In a sequential manner, right? It lets you skip all that and let your agent actually write SQL queries against those data sources, whether be it APIs, files, or any other data sources that Pawrly support, right? So I'm going to quickly show you a demo on how I use Pawrly, right? I'm going to ask Claude to use Pawrly to go through my Gmail and Brex and help me write a doc. So essentially, I'm going to ask Claude to use MCP to analyze my Brex transactions and compare them with some charges that I got from this particular merchant. We're trying to get them to cancel my subscription, but they've not been able to do that. So I'm going to use Claude to be able to get research these transactions and generate a dispute document so I can submit the dispute to Brex, right? So while Claude is doing that, I'm just going to give a quick rundown of on how to set up Pawrly data source. So essentially, Pawrly basically has this concept called sources. Source basically is a building block of how Pawrly is able to access this data or your data sources, right? So you have to define things in a YAML configuration, right? And Pawrly currently supports four backends. The first one is file. So with Pawrly, you can query files like CSV, packet, JSON, and so on. We can of course support we also support like HTTP, which is like the base. This is basically which is actually the biggest data source here. With these, you can define any HTTP request, and Pawrly is able to compose any SQL queries against the API endpoint. You can even specify GraphQL endpoint, and Pawrly is able to write SQL queries against that. We can also specify Open API spec, and Pawrly can automatically pull all the endpoints and actually just let query the get endpoint directly using SQL queries, right? There's also MCP, so that means if you have any MCP server, Pawrly can also leverage those MCP servers and write SQL queries against them. And of course, Pawrly basically support any database that you use. Pawrly can let you query SQLite, Postgres, MySQL, and so on. Pretty much, that's it. Now, Pawrly comes with like a dashboard that lets you explore your data sources, your schema, and everything. While we are doing that, let's check on this. So this is already working. So let's go back to our dashboard, right? So this is Pawrly dashboard. This lets you see all your current data sources that are connected and let you manage them. So for example, I can see my Brex data sources. I don't have access to this endpoint, so that's probably why I'm getting that error. But I can see if I can get department, and that's empty. This is basically the prompt from Brex. That's a lot of prompts, and of course I can see all this. But I don't know why this is not showing me the right thing. But like, let's move on to Gmail. I can see my Gmail. This is my Gmail. I can see all my messages. I don't know if I want to show you my messages or my emails, but let's see. Let's see that. I can show you all my threads. I have a lot of thread. I want to see, so I want you guys to see my thread. But then that goes also for my calendar. I think I can see all my calendar. That's pretty cool. Then I can also see, of course, I can go to Stripe. You can see all the Stripe data. I can also like go through like Stellar blockchain. So this is actually a data source that lets me query Stellar blockchain using SQL queries. So with these, I can query all the ledgers, all the transactions currently processing on Stellar on the blockchain, which is crazy, right? And you can see all the transactions that you can see all the queries activity that we just ran against the Stellar blockchain. So yeah, so that's how powerful Pawrly can or Pawrly is, right? So this is still going on. I think right now it's trying to generate, um, it's probably trying to generate the PDF. Yeah, well, I think it's already done. Doing all the queries, we can see all the queries ran, and yeah. So we just wait for that to finish. Um, yeah. Now, Pawrly supports something called semantic layer. If you're familiar with data structure or um, semantic layer, basically, or semantic models basically let you define business models or concepts against your data table, against your data sources or your tables, right? So that way you don't have to. So that way you make sure that um, you have like common concepts on how to query certain data sources or certain specific data in your business or in your organization and so on, right? So this is also very good, especially for AI agents, because that way it reduces the amount of time the agent have to run or generate multiple queries. Agents can discover all your models, all your metrics, or and it can leverage these models to be able to generate the right queries against your data, right? And also Pawrly also supports something called functions, right? Functions basically is a way for you to create custom functions. So let's say you want to be able to query from different data sources, and you don't want Pawrly to manually generate those query every single time. You can create a custom function that actually combines these different data sources together, and with that you can just attach it to any data source, and you can, for example, with this function I can do an actual fetch directly from GitHub, and I can add anything I want to add there, right? So this is how you define the function basically. So you put a search for issues here. You can specify the endpoint, and you specify because with search with functions you can basically provide like custom arguments the same way you see how we are doing it here, right? Then we have something called materialized table. Basically, materialized table lets you save the result of a query and access it later on, right? So instead of you running, well, it's more like a cache, but different from cache, right? It's basically a way for you to to create to save the result of a query, so you can always access that data like at a different time, locally or whatever. So this lets you have like your own data sources stored locally. Pretty much, yeah. I think Claude is done now, so we can go through the dispute. So as you can see, this Claude is able to. Oh, my address is showing there. I don't want my address to show, but Claude is able to use Brex and Gmail to be able to gather all this information, all this data, and I've contested for over $177 that have been charged fraudulently or wrongly, I don't know, and it shows all the emails I've exchanged with them, and they kind of rejected to cancel the transaction, or cancel the subscription. So yeah, pretty much that is Pawrly. Thank you guys. So yeah, Pawrly is, of course, it's open source. You can always go ahead and contribute or use it however you like. You can install Pawrly today by just using a call command, or you can even copy like a prompt, and you can give that to your agent, and yeah, your agent can help you set up Pawrly. Yeah, have a good day, guys. Thank you. Bye.